experience with NACA. Just give you a short story how it all started. I went down to the Wolstein Center, spent 13 hours with thousands of other people. Finally, I got in probably at 1:30 in the morning, and gave them my information. Told me that they would get in touch with me. After the process, I got into forbearance, what they call a forbearance agreement. So in getting into the forbearance agreement, I didn't understand the verbiage. So I contacted Bank of America, sent NACA several emails, texts, trying to find out what the terms of the verbiage was, because I never dealt with anything like this. No one contacted me, no one answered my text. I talked to Bank of America, they sent me to the advocacy department. So they told me that they couldn't talk to me because NACA was representing me, and that they couldn't talk to me about my account. I'm saying, wait a minute, this is my account. Why can't you talk to me? I said, well, what I'll do is go ahead and continue what my monthly payment is so that I get messed up here. And the lady told me, well, there's no use of you doing that because it will only be passed on to the next month of your forbearance, okay, which was $1,130 at that time. Okay. But what led me to this point was that, I bought my home in 2000. I was divorced 5 years later. I worked for cut out pay. So in seeing what my budget was, I could see that I was headed for trouble. So I was trying to get a modification on my loan so that I could handle my responsibilities. So am I continually trying to communicate with Bank of America, with NACA? Nobody would answer any of my questions. So this went on up until this year. I've been going on, they put money away in a suspended fund. I've become delinquent on my account, my credit cards, limits dropped, my interest on credit cards had increased, and my credit rating actually really screwed up at this point in time. So in doing that, I continue to go on. I look for help. I talked to Representative Williams. She gave me some people. I went down and I talked to a group called ESOP, and I went to this group. And finally, I'm having some leads, some things are happening for me, and hopefully they'll be completed soon.
Any questions? When you went to the NACA, were you delinquent in your mortgage at all?
No, I wasn't.
So you're current in your mortgage?
I was current on my mortgage, and I never got delinquent until I entered the forbearance.
And there was a promise made to you by NACA, if you work with us through this forbearance program, we can help you minimize your interest rates.
I could never communicate with them. It was actually the Bank of America. I never signed any papers on the forbearance. There was never given me a paper to tell me what what was expected of me as the applicant to meet the forbearance agreement. That's what I was trying to find out. What was expected of me in this forbearance agreement? It was never given to me. And so when they rolled back around to after the forbearance was up, I read on the email that the forbearance was actually for 4 months. At the end of 4 months, the modification would be done, or it didn't get done. So it didn't get done, so I went back to my actual payments. So I started making my payments as normal, like I normally did. So then I started getting letters that I was looking at the thing, I was 3,000 behind and 4,000 behind. I'm like, how is this possible? And I haven't missed a payment, So it was just kind of crazy. I never really got any satisfaction in what it meant of the agreement that I was involved in.
Any questions? Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so I want to make sure I'm clear here. You said that your forbearance amount was $1,100. What was your original loan amount?
The original loan amount was $1,671.
Okay, so they reduced your payment by $500, and after a 4-month forbearance, you were delinquent $3,000?
Right, and what it was, that the difference, at the end of the forbearance, I was expected to pay the difference of the forbearance of my normal mortgage at the end of the forbearance when it rolled back around in January. And I'm asking now, how is this helping me? Well, now you're going to put me behind the extra plus interest and penalties, it's not helping me at all.
Mr. Chairman, so with the $2,000 in penalties and fees, what did it totally add up to once it was all said and done? What was the maximum that you were delinquent or behind based on that?
At this point,
Or at whatever time?
well, at the time in January, I think the amount had grown to like $4,000, that I was behind in payment. And at the time, this year, it was told to me that I was behind $7,000 some odd dollars. And I never missed a payment.
Okay, so now you're working with ESOP, and what's going on with
Well,
ESOP?
I've actually gotten a letter from Bank of America for a modification on a step loan, and they've been working with me, and things are happening for me now. I sent in, I signed the form, took it down to the housing advocacy lawyers to have them look over the paperwork so that I was understanding the legalities of everything, and they notarize it for me, and I sign it and send it in along with the payment to get the modification done. So things are happening. Hopefully nothing happens. I was listening to Representative Lucky about people sending in the check and sending it in to somebody, and then it doesn't happen. So I'm just hoping this doesn't happen.
This real quick. What I'm finding out through all this process is that we have to realize the first part of the program came down from the federal government. They wanted you to be behind. Delinquent. That's one of the folks that were helping those ones delinquent. So these companies were holding back checks to get you into the program. So that's what I found out, because they were not getting. Now the second part of the phase from the federal government says we're helping people modify. They have problems with appraisals and go through this. And a lot of these problems happen not with banks, but with servicers and individuals who are working for the banks. So we're finding out there's folks behind the scenes for their own purposes. They're holding checks back and things like that, or not processing. Who's getting the blame? The banks. But when the first part of it is, folks that first went into it, if you didn't have a problem being behind, you're not supposed to be in the program. So what they were trying to do is make you part of the program, and that's why they were showing up delinquent. And that has came through my office by me calling things like that. So I will go back to the process and look at the rules and regulations, and I will also contact someone that works specifically in workouts as a, and that's what I was going to bring up, Representative. We may need to modify some of the things that we do to this thing to have folks to communications, require the communications with our constituents. We can't regulate banks, but we can regulate the type of material stuff that's mailed out to folks in the state of Ohio, because it's abused on the federal side. So I think we have to work with you, but again, what we can do, Chairman, is what can we do on our part that we don't have to go to the federal government? What can we require from the state of Ohio with communications?
Well, and I think that's why we're holding this hearing today, that out some of these things, but we should be engaging in legislative activity, so what it should look like. So I think part of listening to the stories that folks are talking to us about, because I know this is very Cleveland-centric, the stories we're going to be hearing today, but as I understand that it's going on outside of Cleveland. Dr. Representative Walter, Representative Lucky, Dayton, and Toledo, and I'm sure it's happening in Cincinnati, Columbus. So we're doing the field hearing up in Cleveland because it's where I live, right?
You're the chairman. That's it, I'm the chairman.
But maybe, as we kind of discuss a little bit more, we do hearing some other questions.
And what I want to say too is that the thing is that I found discouraging was the lack of communication to the applicants in the process. You don't know anything. You go to try to find out what's your status. Nobody to talk to. You try to text NACA, they don't give you any information. You try to contact the Bank of America or the people you get along with, they don't give you any information. So that's a problem. It leaves a person in a bad place. Now, if they tell you, okay, after this loan, after this process is up, then you'll be responsible for A to Z, then you understand what situation you're in. But if there's no contact and no information being given to you, then it leaves you sitting in suspension. You don't know where you're at. Should I pay my bills? Should I just try to do whatever? And you don't know where you're at. That's the only problem I really had with the whole